Both. Joining me now is a Senate candidate we've been talking about quite a bit here. It's Democratic Congressman Conor Lamb. And Congressman, I'm sure you just heard that. It is this, and I think the reason why I hear from a lot of the institutional support for you, Congressman, is there's this idea that you can do both, that you'll be able to appeal to voters that are necessary for the Democratic coalition in Philadelphia and also appeal to some of the same voters that Fetterman's doing. But you tell me that coalition doesn't look like it's coming together yet. What do you say?
Well, Chuck, it is coming together. I wish you would share higher quality polling information with your viewers than the one you led this segment with. I mean, you've been doing this long enough to know how low quality that is. So what the numbers currently are, who knows? But the fact is we've put in the work with voters in Philadelphia and all over the state. And one of the things that they know, Reverend Tyler knows this, other people know it, is on the day after the primary, you have to step out into a larger world in Pennsylvania, and you do have to win swing voters. You have to win independents and even moderate Republicans. That's not a luxury item. It's something you actually have to be successful. I'm the only candidate in this race that has ever done it, and I've done it in red areas. President Trump came to a town last Friday for his rally that I won by 500 votes the year after he won it by 500 votes. I've done that in a lot of parts of Western Pennsylvania, and that's what will make me successful if I'm our nominee.
You think this is more of a myth, that Fetterman connects more with these voters than you do?
I just think it's totally unproven is my point. I have been in 3 elections in a row where I had to win swing voters in order to win. John has only ever been in Democratic primaries. Here in our state, you don't get to vote separately for the lieutenant governor in the general election. And so he's never faced a Republican head-to-head in a general election. This is the most important general election our state is going to have in a really long time. The entire balance of the Senate is there. And so I'm just asking people to consider what it means to be proven. And having spent time in these areas, I've come by my beliefs, honestly. A lot of the swing voters we need are not big liberals. They like the fact that I served in the Marines or that I was in law enforcement, wherever the case. But they agree with us on things like Social Security and Medicare. And that is what I would make the focus of my campaign. That's how you win in a state like Pennsylvania.
I had someone say to me that they think your biggest problem is something you can't control, and that is that your first name became congressman, and that there's this palpable disappointment with Democrats right now in Washington, and that has been a bit of an anchor around your ankle simply because you're a member of that group. Do you accept that theory?
Well, I like to tell people that I am the biggest optimist in the entire Pennsylvania Democratic Party. So I'm not going to say that you're wrong about the feelings people have about Washington. But the fact is, when I first ran for office, it was in a district that was supposed to be impossible to win. The way I'm being outraised and outspent now is nothing compared to what happened to me in that first race. We were outraised and outspent 10-1. But we just did the hard work every single day of showing up and answering people's questions. And I've done that as a member of Congress as well. So I've really learned a lot about our community, the way people care about issues. And all I'm trying to talk to the Democrats right now is let's not throw away what made us successful. When I was first elected, Paul Ryan was the speaker, Mitch McConnell was the majority leader, and Donald Trump was the president. None of those 3 things are true anymore. And it's because all around the country, we got behind candidates like me who could appeal to this larger world, and we won. So let's remember that and get ourselves more numbers to do all the things we want to do.
Is there something the party could do now that would help not just your chances, but the party's chances by November? What do you need to see done? Let's assume you're the nominee here. Let's assume that our friends at Franklin and Marshall really whiffed on this one. What do you need? What kind of action do you need from the Biden administration to sort of back you up when you're on the campaign trail?
Well, I think, your previous question had a grain of truth in it, which is that people are a little mistrustful of Washington and disappointed in it right now. So I don't think you need a message coming from someone who is not me or coming from Washington. What people need is to get to know me and see, first of all, I've spent almost my whole life in this state. I'm devoted to it. I'm not an out-of-state multimillionaire like the Republicans that we'll be running against. And as a result of that, I know what people are going through. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to already who their entire life is about the fact that they cannot afford sufficient child care for their children. Or I go to a lot of senior centers and I play cards and bingo with them. They are enraged that the Social Security cost of living increases do not cover the true cost of inflation. Those are 2 things right there where a majority of Pennsylvanians, not just a majority of Democrats, are with us. And that will be the contrast I'll make in this race with a bunch of out-of-state multimillionaires that don't know these issues and they don't understand what people are going through.
On the issue of abortion rights, where do you think most Pennsylvania voters are?
I think most want Roe v. Wade to be upheld and stay the same. I think that is totally uncontroversial. I mean, as I told you, I ran in a very, very heavily red district my first time. And my position then as now is Roe v. Wade needs to remain the same. People need to be able to choose for themselves whether to get an abortion. And that includes even in the difficult later stages of pregnancy where it is almost all having to do with medical uncertainties. And I've been elected 3 times with that position in a pretty red area. So I'm confident that's where a majority of people are.
It does seem as if like both parties are trying to define the other as extreme on this issue. Is there, Roe v. Wade, do you think you need to be saying what limits that you would put on abortion in order to meet voters where you think they might be on this issue?
I think, my policy is anyone that wants to ask me a question can ask. And if that's what someone asks me, I'll tell them, what's in the Women's Health Protection Act, which is, after viability, it has to do with the health and safety of the mother. So there is a reasonable medical standard to apply. Mm-hmm. But in general, I think a lot of people just want the same rule that we've had for 50 years to stay in place. And they may not want to talk about it a whole lot more than that. But what's radical about what the Republicans are doing is they're overturning something people have counted on for 50 years, just like they're overturning their support for voting rights, and just like they want to hold a vote whether to eliminate Social Security and Medicare within the next 5 years. I mean, they make me feel like a conservative sometimes because I want to conserve these things that I think have been so vital to our national life.
If you win this primary, it'll be because why? What would be the explanation for you winning?
Because I'm not afraid to go anywhere and answer people's questions. And that's something John Fetterman has been afraid to do. And I think whether it's the gun issue that you talked about or others, part of the way that you overcome some of this cynicism and mistrust is to show up and answer people's questions, take their feedback, and fight for every single vote. And that's what I've been doing every day.
Congressman Connor Lamb, Democrat from Western Pennsylvania, really appreciate you coming on, sharing your perspective. Be safe on the trail, sir.
Thank you.